Hey guys, welcome back. Eric Smith here, 5 Reasons Sports contributor, also co-host of Scouting the Fins, and we are continuing our film reviews of Miami Dolphins 2025 draft picks with sixth rounder, number 179 overall, Ollie Gordon. Gordon is a bit of a bigger back than what we're used to on the roster, standing at 6'1", 226 pounds. He was a unanimous All American as a sophomore with 1,732 yards rushing and 21 touchdowns in 2023. And then he ended his junior season with less than half of his previous season's rushing totals and only 13 touchdowns. His carries of over 20 yards also dropped from 21 in 2023 to 6 last year. Gordon only ran a 4.61 40-yard dash. His 10-yard and 20-yard splits were also slower than all 13 backs ranked ahead of Gordon in Dane Brugler's guide, and that includes Cam Scatterbo. He definitely seems to be a departure from the type of running back that Mike McDaniel has coveted in this offense. Looking back over my personal pre-draft notes for Gordon, long legs, high center of gravity, almost looks more like a tight end, a willing pass blocker, but pretty much always goes for the cut block. His cuts look mechanical, doesn't exhibit plus vision reading blocks. And the last note that I had on Gordon was that I didn't see him on Miami's radar. Looking at the notes from Simon Clancy's draft guide, he points out that Gordon just turned 21 before the draft and also mentions that Gordon was charged with an underage DUI in June of 2024, but he's generally regarded as a high character individual who models himself after Derrick Henry. Looking at the notes from Jake Brentall's guide, shows nice active hands as a pass catcher out of the backfield, long speed once he makes it to the second level, struggles to improvise if plays break down and lacks patience to let blocking develop, and he doesn't run with anywhere near the anger that you want in a big back. And then looking at Dane Brugler's guide, as I said, he had him as the number 14 running back and had him with a fourth round grade. Points out that he has some experience as a quarterback in high school. Catches the ball well. Didn't register a drop in 2024 on 38 targets. Says that he runs upright and struggles to make himself small. Guilty of slowing or stopping his feet instead of dropping his pads and driving through impending contact. Late to locate and access alternate run lanes. And that he holds the ball too loose at times, with 4 fumbles over the past 2 seasons. So, like we've talked about on previous videos, when we're looking at day 3 picks, and now we're getting into late day 3 picks with Gordon being a 6th rounder, there's going to be reasons these players fall. And you can hear from all of the notes just discussed that Ollie Gordon is not an exception to that. And like we've talked about before, the key to these day 3 picks is that they always have something that a coach or someone sees. So my purpose of doing these videos and providing these film reviews is to try and project what that something is or is not, and try to set some realistic expectations as to what we can look for as progress as we go through the preseason and move towards the regular season with these rookies. All right, as we get into the video portion, we are going to start out with inside zone and duo runs for Ollie Gordon. And a big reason for that is, with his size, that's how a lot of people see him contributing to the Dolphins. As we go through these, you're going to see some good stuff and some bad stuff. This is probably where we're going to have the most video clips. So we're not going to spend a ton of time on any individual play. So looking at this one here, all right, not a great one to start out with in terms of talking about. Not a lot that Gordon could have done with this one as the linemen are falling down in front of him. Next one here. So now on this one, ends up getting called back for a holding penalty. And that holding penalty happens right here at number 67. And you can see that's as Gordon is bouncing to the outside. But if we go back and we, watch the way that this play develops, right? You've got a solo block here and a solo block here. You've got somewhat of a combo block up to number 11, right? And watching the way this is developing, this is a inside read all day, right? And I understand the tackle is getting driven back, but that can't mean an automatic bounce for Gordon. If Gordon keeps this a little more vertical, right, there's some traffic there, but if he gets through the briar patch, he could be looking at a huge run through the middle there and eliminating the possibility for that hold there. Moving forward, good job here of reading it, right? This linebacker is shifting over top. You can see that the hat's to the inside, so this is a cutback read. Nice job here by Gordon of, clearing the linebacker and then getting vertical. He ends up fumbling there, which obviously is not ideal. But like the way that he read that, didn't really dance with it and got vertical as soon as he could. Next one here. So on that one, felt like he did a pretty good job there. Um, so we've got a combo block between the left guard center up to number 2, and then right guard tackle up to number 11. Right, the way that the hats are appearing there, it looks like it should be a read there early. But I think that Gordon sees the linebacker flowing over top and gets back to the inside there. Um, not a bad job there. I like the way that he's driving his legs at the finish of that one. Next play, we're getting duo. Another good job here of, not being hesitant in the backfield. He is making that read based on the linebackers, right? This linebacker basically has that gap accounted for. Number 11's filling there, so this is a cutback run. Good job on the split flow action, and good job by Gordon of, finding the cutback lane and then getting vertical with it as soon as he could and finishing through contact. Tough rep there for Gordon. This combo block should account for number 2, but they clearly did not plan on him stepping up and filling that hole right away. Ends up with Gordon getting contact in the backfield. Nice job of him fighting through that and getting near the end zone. Inside zone again. Another nice job there, right? Again, he's getting vertical as soon as he can, right? This is where the read is taking him. And as he gets to that next level, he's making the secondary reads on the move and getting through the traffic. So nice job there. On this one, so here I felt that he, may have gotten a little anxious because the tackle and end on this side are twisting, right? And as soon as he sees this defender flashing to the inside, right away he is abandoning ship to the outside, and you can see that the tackle is able to hold that outside leverage. Now he does end up making something out of this, but when we're talking about a late round pick that's going to be trying to earn time, right? You can't bank on stuff like that. The ideal situation here would have been that he sees these butts together and he's hammering up right through that hole, and again getting vertical as soon as he can. Next one here. So can't blame him too much for the bounce here, because you can see that as the play develops, right? Solo block there, solo block there. Looks as though the center is preparing to combo up to number 11, but the right guard doesn't see that the same way and never gets there. So number 11 never gets accounted for. So you got a free defender in the middle. So can't fault him too much for bouncing in that situation. This one here, obviously, like that leg drive to finish the play. Um, so solo, solo, combo, combo, right? Looking at the way that's developing. Um, Obviously, the read on that first combo is to the inside. This defender has the inside leverage there, right? Nice read. Like everything about that for Gordon on that short yardage run. Now we got inside zone to the right. So we're getting what is essentially a combo block between these two against those two defenders. So we're going to get a combo block between the center and the left guard up to number 11 as well, right? And on this one, um, again, a solid job of reading it in the sense that number 3 is coming across on this split flow action. The defensive end crashes hard, and Gordon sees that, right? Obviously, nothing there where the line read is taking him. So gets vertical and finishes over top the defender. Nice run there. On that one, right? Like the cut. So this is duo. So we're going to the backside here. So we're going to have looks like left guard and center comboing to number 17, which means that the right guard, right tackle are comboing to number 11. And then 7 is essentially unaccounted for. He's a safety, probably walking up late in the box here. Ends up with everything basically getting washed down with the way that these combos are going. So good job by Gordon of seeing that, cutting outside, right? Reading that leverage, even though we're not really getting a good block there, right? He's not dancing with it. He's putting his foot in the ground, getting vertical, and then finishing with a big run there. So nice job of reading both the initial reads and the secondary reads on that one. Next one here. So we get duo, right? And as we're looking back over it, so there is a defender to the outside here. You see his helmet just barely on the screen there. So solo, solo. We're getting the combo block between center and right guard, which means the tackle is going to block down number 16. Got the split flow action coming across, right? Everything gets washed inside. And good job by Gordon of seeing everything get washed inside and just, basically staying vertical. Now, number 11 ends up being able to scrape over maybe a little more than is ideal, right? You'd like to see the right tackle be able to climb and seal right there, but in terms of the reads, it was a good job by Gordon on that one. Now on this one, so no split flow action, so we're getting a solo block out there. It means we're going to have a combo block between right tackle, right guard up to 54, looking like a solo with the center, and then a combo block on the backside here with the left guard, left tackle, as we see it developing. Now, this one I don't like Gordon's cut as much, right? Shouldn't be looking to cut this back. Eventually makes it back into the right hole, right? But looking at the leverage here, right? This is where he should be looking right away, right? And then as this develops, if he can't continue that downhill, then, maybe he hits it obviously a skinny gap there, right? But that's where the power needs to come in. Just didn't like on this one how late it took Gordon to get to the right read. Next one, so on this, we're going to get, looks like inside zone to the left, a little hurdle there. So reading the assignments, we get the split flow action. So we're getting a combo block between left tackle, left guard up to number 16, means center right guard up to number 11, and then right tackle and tight end up to 17, right? So he starts to this side. And you can see that, right? This combo block, the read is to the inside. This combo block, read is to the inside. Everything is, read to the cutback, right? So nice job here of reading it and getting through. Nothing at all to complain about on that one. Next play. All right, so we're getting inside zone to the right, right? Solo, solo means you got a combo here between the center and left guard. Now you can see that the left guard feels pressure and has to abandon that. So I think that was another good job of reading that, reading this front side first, right? That's obviously outside leverage. Next, had inside, outside leverage again, right? And now just finding that lane, lowering the shoulder, like what Gordon did on that, like the way he finished that run. Now we get duo and getting split flow action here. So they're trying to combo through 93 to 17. They want to kick out the outside linebacker, defensive end, whatever that is. And you can see that, good reads to see everything crashing inside as well as the end man on the line of scrimmage, right? Cut to the outside, get you in a one-on-one matchup, and score the ball. Next one here, duo, right? So now we're getting solo block there, getting a combo block up to number 11, right? I think that over here they're looking number 11 also. Um, Looks like we have the defense outnumbered in the box here. Got 6 defenders, and you get 8 blockers once you bring that other guy into the box here. Right? I think that's what Gordon's reading, right? Having the numbers in the box is usually going to result in a cutback there. Um, Nice job reading the way that those blocks are sorting out, right? 17 is just barely to the inside. We got good position there. Definitely the right read to get through that lane and finish going forward. A few more here for the inside runs. So now we are getting a bad snap, and then so that's inside zone with a cutback, right? So now what we're getting, got a solo block by the right tackle, right guard center combo, essentially a combo on the backside here, right? So as we're reading that, looking at these blocks, everything's saying to cut back, everything's saying to cut back the whole way, right? Nice read there. And then we see him running through an arm tackle essentially and making a guy miss. Had it not been for a very strong undershirt, would have probably scored on that one. Another inside zone, so tough situation there. Um, we're getting the solo block, combo up to 16, combo up to 11, but we're a little late getting to 11. Um, I think I'd still rather see, if we're reading this by the letter of the law, Gordon should be seeing the right guard here peeling off, and that lane should happen right there. You let him, pin number 11 inside and get through that inside lane. Um, and these are the kind of ones that, again, got to clean these up. That he's not a 4-3 guy that can just beat everybody to the edge. Got to continue to trust the system, right, and cut that back inside and get what you can. And then last one here, so that's going to be duo, right? And on this one, we're getting a combo up to number 17, right? A solo there, and then the split flow action is going to get to number 11 is where they're aiming with that, right? Everything is getting washed, so should be looking to stay directly downhill, and reads the block on number 11, and just not a lot of options there. So 2-3 yards, that's a good gain there. So that's all the clips for inside zone and duo, and that's a lot of them. But you can see some good and some bad in there. I felt like as we progressed through those clips, saw a little better job of reading the blocks and hitting the appropriate holes. So while there is still room to grow, there is certainly promise there as well. All right, next we're going to take a look at counter plays, right? So this is where you got two pullers, right, going the opposite direction of where the flow's going, right? So flow's going to the left. You can see even Gordon is starting to the left and then comes back to the right. Um, Ideally, you get a kick out there. Didn't get it on this one, right? But the secondary blocker reads it. Gordon reads it. Um, Not a bad job there by Gordon in terms of reading it. I think as he gets through the lane there, right, maybe see that kick out a little earlier and keep this more press to the outside a little bit versus trying to cut back where he gets caught. But that's kind of nitpicking on that. Now we're getting very similar play and a better job there, right? So again, he squeezes. So now they call that logging the defensive end, where he's turning him to the inside. Secondary pullers coming through for the kick out, and Gordon is just going to try to get vertical with that. Not a whole lot he can do with it. Now we're getting going to the left here, and you can see that number 38 misses completely, right? Nothing you can expect from Gordon there, right? You can't expect a guy flying off the edge completely unblocked when you have blockers there. Now we're getting to the left, so another log there. And again, right, nitpicking at little stuff. A little late on that cut. Right? You see the log block, you should expect the kick out from the next guy, right? And should be starting that cut now, right? Ends up kind of hopping into it. Finishes okay, right? But just one of those little things that we keep talking about. Now we're going to the left. No real complaints with the reading there. End up having to log the first defender, that linebacker. 38 is going for the kick out. Nice job fitting up the middle, those shoulders. Would like to see a little more leg drive in finishing that one, right? But in terms of reading it and getting the pads low, liked what he did there. Now we're coming back to the left side once again. And on this one, right? So on this one, your guard doesn't find the right guy, right? He passes him over and he ends up making the tackle. So again, can't fault Ollie too much on this one. Going to the left, nothing to complain about there, right? We're in a spread formation, so light box, only 5 defenders, right? Getting the down block there, getting your lead guard sealing, trail guard is getting around the edge there. Just stick on his hip, right, and get what you can there, right? That's probably a 9-10 yard gain. Take that all day. Now we're going to the left there, getting some traffic. Like the way that he protects the ball there, right? A bit of a muddy read there, right? Don't really get a great kick out there, but you can see that the backside puller is trying to turn it up, so Ollie's going to follow that. And then as we're getting through there, right? Nothing real clear. Just time to protect the ball and get what you can. And you can see as a result of trusting the reads, right? Get a solid gain out of a kind of ugly looking play. Same idea there, right? So now we're getting guard tackle pulling again. Even though wouldn't call this a kick out block from the lead puller, that's the way the backside puller reads it and turns it up. Gordon stays on him nice and tight, and we're still getting 4 or 5 yards out of what doesn't look like much. And then last one for counters here, right? And now on this one, right, so we get guard pulling, and we got the F coming in from the screen, right? Logging on the outside there. And here, maybe it's the fact that 11 flashed up there that he decided to try to bounce it, right? But, if he puts his foot in the ground and turns it up the way that he has been, right, instead of trying to beat number 11 to the outside, then you're either going to get, 3, 4 yards up the middle, right? Or if you stick your foot in the ground and cut, right, maybe this offensive lineman is able to get to that block and we're scoring from there. So, again, just nitpicking to an extent, right? But if we're talking about a sixth round pick trying to find his way on the field, right, then, this is the stuff that will madden a coach when you're a 4-6 guy trying to, beat a linebacker to the edge and getting drugged down because you just don't have the wheels to get there. All right, just a couple of crack toss plays. This is something that was pretty common in the Dolphins offense in 2023. Kind of went away from it in 2024. Um, so basically, this is very similar to outside zone, but instead of um, running downhill and reading off the tight end, this is a play that's getting outside right away with your tackle getting to the outside. And we can see here that right toss to the outside, tackles getting outside, and this is a even though Gordon is not um, a blazer in terms of 40, I kind of like him on these plays because he does have good long speed, and when he's not dancing, um, does good reading stuff on the move, and his momentum can be, quite the weapon. So I think that if you get him on the outside there, reading these crack toss blocks on the run, I think this is something that you could definitely see him doing in the NFL with a Patrick Paul or Austin Jackson out there in front of him. So now we're going to get a direct snap. Still the same thing, right? We're cracking down with everybody on the outside here, and it's actually the guard that's getting outside. Now, in this case, um, you know, somebody's got to pick this up, right? We've got 3-2 in terms of assignment, blocking here. Maybe Gordon keeps this to the outside, but given a free defender essentially in the hole, we've talked about him not trying to beat defenders to the edge. Kind of get why he cut that back, but this is the type of play that again you got to kind of clean up. If you're going to cut that up, it's got to happen early so that you get something out of it, or you continue it outside. Right at this point now, you see that this defender's in the hole. If you're going to cut that up, you need to get downhill right here, right? And if you're going to continue those extra 2 steps to the outside, then you got to stay to the outside. But again, just little details that we got to continue to see cleaned up. So these next ones I have classified as option plays, but they're not all of them are necessarily options, right? This is just that you have, this looks like it's probably has an option as a quarterback counter to the left, right? But instead we're tossing out here away from the action. Similar idea to the crack toss stuff in the sense that I like it for Ollie because it would get him to the outside. Not going to see this with Miami really, unless you start seeing it in 2 back sets, right? Where, maybe this is, we're faking the counter there and that swing pass they like to do to the outside, that could be a comparable play that we see in the NFL. But Ollie's ability to, read on the run and use that momentum could make him, pretty strong in this. Similar play there. This is not a true quarterback option, but you see that the blocking is a counter to the right. And again, we see Ollie getting out there, getting on the edge, right, reading those blocks in the run, and finishing in the end zone. And last one for these option type plays. And now this one it's more of a true option, right? But the quarterback doesn't do a great job here. Not something that they did a lot. You'd like to see this quarterback attack downhill more, but that also leaves the quarterback susceptible to getting hit. So I understand why he pitched it early. If you have a faster back, right, if this is an A-chan on the outside here, right, then, from this point, he beats number 5 to the edge right away. Ollie Gordon, on the other hand, does not have quite the same speed. So he gets drug out of bounds. Still a gain, um, but just another play that was on the menu here. All right, and then kind of save the best for last in terms of the Dolphins scheme. So the Dolphins are a heavy wide zone scheme. I think anybody that is going to get playing time in this offense needs to be able to run this well. So these next plays are going to take a look at Gordon and his ability to run those plays. Right. So now we're getting um, looks to me as though this should be a combo from number 40 to number 8, and then you get the combo between left guard center up to 25, and then the combo up here to 14. But your F or Y, whatever you want to classify number 86 as, decides not to block number 8 at all. We get two blockers going to 25, and number 8's making the play on the hole. Not a running back issue. Outside zone to the right, to the weak side of this. So right off the snap, right, we get the solo block out there. We're getting the combo up to number 10. Would like to see the right tackle being a little more aggressive with his run fit here, but you can see that he's immediately got outside leverage. So this right now is an outside read for Ollie, and you can see he's pressing it right there right away. And then 74 never makes it up to number 10. Um, I would like to see Ollie not trying to cut this back, but instead just try to continue to press this to the sideline, right? Use his size to be able to run through number 10. I understand number 15's there, right? But this is an opportunity to get, an extra 5-6 yards as opposed to basically getting caught at the line of scrimmage there. And get outside zone to the right. So now we're getting split flow action. So he's coming across to pick up this defensive end. And then we're getting solo block here with 61. You're going to be comboing with your right guard and center up to 22, left guard, left tackle up to number 10. As we're looking at the run fits here, right? Outside position, outside position. So we're looking at the cutback, right? As we continue to read back, you can see that also has that, play side leverage, right? So this should cut all the way back. And good job on the read. But typically the way this is coached is, right, you got the ball 1, 2, 3, right? Right there is where that cut should be happening. And you can see that it takes a little more gathering from Gordon, right? 1, 2, 3. Would like to see a hard cut and then get vertical, but he's got to go left, right, and then, kind of dance through it. Never really gets that vertical momentum back on track. Going to the left. So now we're getting kind of a combo between tackle and fullback up to number 18. Combo between, I guess it'd be left guard and center up to 22, right? And then the backside combo there. As we're looking at the play developed, number 40 has outside position. Number 5 kind of undecided there. This play probably should have cut back, but not a whole lot of great options there. Just one of those deals that rather than continuing to press that outside at some point here, right, probably would have just preferred him cut off the butt of the guard here and, try to pound forward for 3-4 yards, whatever you can get. All right, so now we're getting, some split flow action to the weak side. So this is, again, typically going to result in a cutback. And as we look at the way that this is, assignments are working their way out, they're basically going to push everything over one. So 71-67 are going to combo basically through these two edge defenders. And then the center is going to help a little bit here on this 0 or 1 technique before his ultimate assignment is back here. And looks like we had a little bit of confusion on the split flow action. Typically you'd see the backside tackle climb to this linebacker and then kick out back here. They end up basically doing okay, but I think that in the end that may have kind of muddied up the read there for Ollie. Overall, I think he did a solid job there getting to the cutback, right? And in this instance, once stuff got muddy, right, just find the opening, lower the shoulder, get upfield, drive the legs like that out of him. Right, strong side outside zone, getting the split flow read off the fullback in motion. So blocking assignment wise, solo, solo, or not solo. This is going to be a combo. 74 is going to climb to the linebacker there, right? And then these two are working backside. That linebacker's flying over top. 74 is getting him, right? Just a nice, easy read here for Ollie. Good job of getting vertical with it. Almost the exact same play here. Same idea, right? The combo is going up to number 14, who is flowing over the top. That nose tackle, everything out here has outside leverage, right? So we're reading outside in, right? Defenders outside, linebackers flowing, everything's saying to cut back, right? As we read the nose, same thing there, right? And then the backside is also has that leverage over top, right? So you see the way that the cutback is developing there, and just a good job of getting vertical. All right, so now we're not getting split flow action. Now we're running to the weak side, right? Fullback on the strong side there. So in this case, we're going to get a solo block with the right tackle on the end. The fullback is going to have accountability for number 14, which means that we're going to get a combo between right guard and center to number 10, right? So now reading the way those blocks develop, we got outside leverage on this block. Linebackers flowing outside. Everything here is flowing over top. And they kind of lose the leverage on that nose. He's able to fight to the backside there. But I think that Ollie was reading that correctly, right? That we're looking to, based on this leverage right here, should be able to cut that back up inside. And if we look at the, when he gets the ball, right, 1, 2, 3, not a bad job on that cut, right? Just have the nose tackle able to slide into that gap and make the play. Last outside zone run here. So let's see. We're not getting, well, we are kind of getting split flow action, but he's not kicking out the end. So basically, you've got solo blocks across the front there. Going to get a combo between the center and the right guard, right? And then a combo on the backside here also. So reading leverage, right? Outside leverage. Basically outside leverage, outside leverage. So right now we're looking to hammer this right up into this gap as this, I feel as the guard or the center is peeling off for number 11, right? Makes the right read there. Now, 67 can't maintain that leverage, right? So that's where he gets wrapped up. But you can see that he's making the right reads. So as we finish up with the run game stuff here, I was actually kind of pleasantly surprised when I first looked at a lot of these plays. You see Ollie getting tackled fairly quickly on some of them, like this play. But when you really slow it down and start breaking it down, he was making mostly right reads. He had a couple of them that can be better, but overall, I'm fairly encouraged with his ability to make the reads in our zone blocking scheme. All right, as we get into the passing game stuff, so the first thing we're going to look at here is Ollie chop blocking on the pass plays, right? And you've seen this commented on multiple places that he does this a lot, almost too much, goes to it too often. You can see a play like that becomes predictable in a way that a defender can jump over it. And as you get into NFL defensive linemen, if they can jump over it, then that can end up pretty bad for your quarterback. But, has other plays where it's fairly effective. That one was okay, made contact, but the defender was able to, still spin off of it. Ball gets out fairly on time, so not an issue. Looking at the next one here, right? Again, he's usually when you cut block somebody, you're really looking to take them off of their feet. And I would say we did not see that enough. I think part of that is just that, he went to that move so often that, it may have slowed down the rush, but didn't really have the desired effect. And then another part of pass blocking is, chip blocking off the edge. Actually, that one should have still been under the chops. That was actually a pretty effective one, right? That's what you want to see if you are going to sell out and chop a defender, right? You want to see them end up on the ground. Now, as we look through here, not not a great effort there, right? Still effective in the sense that he makes the defender run around, but would like to see him actually make contact. He does have, some good examples of it. These chip blocks are effective to help your tackles. Basically, if you have a big back that can chip from the outside, then your tackle no longer has to worry about really defending on the edge as much. I think that somebody like Austin Jackson could really benefit from a player like Ollie. Whereas, if you had Devon Achane doing this, his 180-pound body doesn't do a whole lot to these defensive ends. But even though it's not a big block, it is enough of a block that makes a difference in terms of what the tackle on the outside has to account for. Same idea there, right? This is helping out the fullback who's lined up as a wing, right? Not doing a whole lot, but doing enough that that fullback can be more worried about an inside move than an outside move. And then last one here for the chip blocks, right? You see him getting pointed out there. And same idea there, right? Nothing earth shattering or highlight reel worthy, but you can see that he contributes in the pass blocking game, right, by helping out the tackles and then leaking out there for the outlet pass. And there's not a lot of examples of him blocking and really, taking a defender on square, but there's enough of it that, you can see the potential, right? In this case, defensive end. He looks like he's starting to, show a cut, and maybe that was intentional to slow the defender down a little bit, but then ends up, bodying him up. And then on this, I think this is going to be a run play, but you can still see that, has the ability to get out there, shows the willingness to get out there as a lead blocker on occasion. Not something you're going to, he's not going to turn to a fullback and take Alec Ingold's spot by any means, but, does show that part of his game that you could use him in that role also, right? Maybe you get him outside every once in a while on a screen pass in front of Achane or something like that, just as an extra blocker. We saw them do that a couple of times with Achane last year, and obviously not a good role for him, but that is something that Gordon could help fill in this offense. And then we're just going to let these ones play through. But probably one of my favorite parts about Ollie Gordon's game is his ability as a receiver. You see on some of these catches, shows soft hands, shows an ability to adjust to the ball. On some of these receptions, you see him adjusting in a way that running backs can't always do, kind of like that one, right? Catching that ball and spinning to the inside is not, just a given. So solid job there. That one obviously can't do much with. But, having a receiver that can, not even that one, right? That was a tough adjustment to catch that and getting out into space. That was that balloon route that we saw the Dolphins using. So this is definitely an area of his game that I like. And I think that, when you combine his ability as a pass protector with this receiving ability, definitely feel like he can carve out a role, a third down role, as he, figures out how to get on the field as a running back as well. All right, then we're going to finish up with the film review with just a couple of miscellaneous plays here. So I mentioned earlier that Dane Brugler had pointed out that he played some quarterback in high school, right? And on this one, you see that, you know, not going to take Tua's job as a starting quarterback, right? But to be able to run and still be able to throw an accurate pass across your body like that, um, it's an interesting tool to have at your disposal. And even though we haven't seen a ton of trick plays like that from Miami, when you add somebody like Ollie Gordon that has that ability, right? It's something worth looking into to sprinkle in here and there. And then this last one here was just a nice short yardage play here. Didn't really fall under any of the other play types. This is more just a dive or wedge type play. And, you can see Ollie diving over the top, right? Would love to see him be able to do this some down at the goal line too. All right, so I did actually have a little more film that I wanted to look at. So I decided to go back to 2023. This first one here was just another tool in the bag, right? This is Ollie being able to split out and run a slant. Didn't see that in the games that I'd watched from 2024, but picked this up on one of the 2023 games and wanted to share it. And then the rest of the films or the rest of the plays that we're going to look at in the film review are going to be runs from 2023, and you can just see how much more space there was for him in 2023. A lot of these runs he's not getting touched until 5, 10, 15 yards down the field. So when you look at the difference in production, I think that Gordon is still very much the same player that he was in 2023, but I think the supporting cast was a little different. So I think that his production was probably inflated in 2023 over what he really is, but it's probably better than what it was in 2024, where he was, pretty frequently being contacted at or behind the line of scrimmage. So I think that, the true player that Ollie Gordon is, I think kind of falls in between that 1,700 yard season of 2023 and the 800 yard season of 2024. All right, as we finish up the film there, just want to talk about my overall opinion of Ollie Gordon. And going into that film review, I really did not expect to like Ollie Gordon that much. Just kind of watching him and the way that he seemed to be a little slow with his acceleration and some of his decision making. I really expected to come out just expecting this to, I don't want to say be a throwaway pick, but not something that I was expecting a whole lot out of. But after watching him, right, and watching, he went through the inside zone, the duo, the outside zone, the crack toss, and you saw that on a large majority of those plays, he was making the right reads. Definitely had some where he didn't, but you're going to have that with all running backs. But I think that there is, possibly more potential in this scheme than some may think, and I view him as a similar player to Raheem Mostert. And don't make that comparison in terms of the speed, because Mostert was a true track star. But in terms of a guy that's a little more long legged, not your not going to be explosive between the tackles, needs to kind of get up to speed. But that's the way I see Ollie Gordon as well. That if he continues to develop his ability to read on the run, right, and to be more decisive with those cuts and trust his eyes, I think there's a nice upside in Gordon for this system. I don't think he's going to end up as a needle in the haystack, you know, NFL leader the way that, Mostert had the potential to be in this scheme. But I do think that there is upside with him, being a complementary piece. Think he will be effective in the running game, but especially as a rookie, I think where he's really going to make his impact is in the passing game, both as a blocker and as a receiver. He is a player that is day one ready to contribute. He's got the hands, he's got the blocking ability. He can do stuff in space once he gets up to speed. So I think that, early on he has the ability to do that, right? Maybe it's Achan is splitting out into the slot and Gordon's in the backfield, and then you're saving, your more traditional runs for Jalen Wright. Um, I think there's definitely a spot for Ollie Gordon to be able to find the field as a rookie, as a sixth round pick. I think this is really good value. If he can, find some of those lanes that he did in 2023, right? He can rack off some big time plays. So let me know what you guys think of him, right? Leave some comments below, and we'll be back again soon with the Quinn Ewers tape, and we'll talk again then.